Welcome everybody to the Marketing, Regulatory, and Legislative Subcommittee meeting for Friday, October 13th. I am now calling this meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, we can. Member Bartlett. Member Barrientos is here. Member Jorgens. Here. Member Wright. Here. Member Patino.
Here.
Member Roach. Yes. All right. We do not have a quorum. We have a quorum now.
Okay. Now it's time for public comment. Do we have anybody in the room that would like to make a public comment?
Yes, we have one member of the public with their hand raised.
Okay, let's go for it. 3 minutes, please.
Okay. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Audrey Ichinose. I'm a resident of South Berkeley and a member of the East Bay Clean Power Alliance, as well as the statewide California Alliance for Community Energy. My comment is actually a quest for more information about the activity that staff pursues in the regulatory and legislative areas. With respect to bills in the legislature, how and by whom are the ones that appear on your tracker identified as important for EBCE? And that done, does staff engage with the authors of the bill to say why EBCE may support or oppose them? And similarly, what does staff do regarding matters pending before the CPUC? Again, how are matters important to EBCE identified and what follow-up action is taken? I raise these questions because many of us longtime advocates for community energy and distributed energy resources are currently involved in a pitched battle. That's my own term, yeah? Pitched battle with the CPUC over its proposed decision regarding new NEM tariffs for multi-metered properties. The proposed decision would radically disincentivize rooftop solar for renters, landlords, schools, condos, co-ops, small farmers, health centers, etc. Very broadly affect solar, rooftop solar. The commission has now twice postponed its vote on the matter because of widespread opposition. This is an issue that all CCAs need to take a stand on, and I have not seen any comment from EBCE or Cal CCA about this. Sometime soon, I hope that staff can provide information on the questions that I raised. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Yes, sorry, you have 3 minutes rather than 2 minutes. So if you would still like to add anything, feel free to add in the next 50 seconds that's remaining.
That's okay. That's fine. I think that's all I wanted to say. Raise these questions.
Thank you so much, Audrey. Okay, next item is approval of the minutes from November 4th, 2022. So, yeah, it's been that long? Okay, go ahead.
We did not have a quorum at the last meeting. That's why we couldn't approve the minutes then.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Okay. So, does anybody have any comments about the minutes? I will entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve, right?
Second.
Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and do a roll call.
Yes. Member Bartlett. Here. Member Barrientos.
Yes.
Member Jorgens.
Yes.
Member Wright.
Yes.
Member Patino.
Yes.
Chair Roach. The motion, the minutes are approved.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item is the brand update informational. Who will be giving that update? Teresa?
I will, yes. Hi, thanks for having me. Raisa, are you to bring up the slides or should I?
No, I will bring up the slides for you. Let me know if you.
Great. Thank you all for having me back. I am happy to provide this update on our rollout of Ava Community Energy. I took the liberty of kind of like jumping ahead now that we're in public with, you know, the brand and the name and all that stuff of giving you a little preview of what the new look and feel looks like, even though we won't be officially adopting it until the 24th of October. So these slides are kind of displaying our new look and feel. So you can go to the next slide, please. Thanks. So I just wanted to kind of reconfirm, and I know Annie talked about it last month, the philosophy of how we're approaching this rollout, provide you a high-level schedule of it, talk about how each of our key stakeholder groups will experience this rollout, and then just kind of preview looking ahead to what the second phase of the rollout is looking like. You can go ahead to the next slide. So, let me just interrupt myself to say, please interrupt me as I go along if you have questions about any of this. I don't have too many slides and happy to entertain questions along the way. So philosophically, we are kind of taking a go slow to go fast later approach with this. Sometimes with brand launches, you see a big bang, everything cuts over in one day, and it's one day you're one thing and the next day you're the next thing. We're not doing that. Very difficult to do that with a public entity anyhow. But we also know that we're coming from a position of strength. We're not running away from our old identity of East Bay Community Energy. We're just kind of evolving onto this next identity that's going to serve us better as we grow in both our territory and our ambitions. So there's this two-phased approach. There's the passive approach, or the passive phase, which we're going to be entering in on the 24th of October. And then the more active phase that begins in the new year. So since the passive phase is really more about kind of like enabling and informing and getting everybody ready to do the bigger work of the active phase in the new year, this update I'm giving, I know this is the MRL committee, it's not really a marketing update so much as it is a kind of enabling and informing update. So why don't we go ahead and go to the next slide. This is a visual depiction of that two-phased approach. So phase one, which we've entered into already, is the kind of, as I said, the passive phase. We had been calling it a soft launch, but I've been told that there's nothing, it doesn't feel very soft to all the folks internally who are having to implement it. So I've taken to calling it passive and active. So we've begun that process now with kind of our first public mention of it of the new brand in our Power Content Label mailer, which some of you may have already seen if you received that via email. The 24th of October, a week from next Tuesday, is when we cut over to adopting the new identity and look and feel and everything, and embody our Ava-ness going forward. And the rest of that period from the 24th of October through the end of the year is really where we're going to be kind of fine-tuning, and making sure we're bringing everybody along and getting ready for the more active phase two launch, or phase two aspects of the launch beginning in January, where we are actively communicating with people, going out of our way in multiple channels to make sure that all of our constituents are brought along and understand that EBCE is now AVA and what that means for them and all the benefits they get as part of that. So that's a high level look at the schedule. You can go to the next slide, please. So these next few slides are just, as I said, a discussion about how each of our core stakeholder groups are going to experience this early phase of the rollout. And I hope that you'll take away from this that there's been a lot of care and thought in making sure that we get this right, and that everybody who needs to be ready to embrace it and use it and understand it is we're making efforts to do that and bring them along. So obviously, number one constituent is our customers, our ratepayers. And as I talked about before, they've already if they're really paying attention and if they're reading their emails, they've already, or visiting our website, they're already experiencing the AVA brand. They've seen the Power Content label that was in the mention in the Power Content label that AVA is coming soon. If you go to our website now, you'll see there's a banner across the top that says East Bay Community Energy will soon be AVA Community Energy. And that has a link to kind of an FAQ page on the website where people can have more information answered for them. On the 24th of October, when we cut over, that is when PG&E will start the bills that are run from that day forward will have information about AVA on them. Our customer service center will be answering the phone as AVA. Our website will be reskinned. There will be a press release in order to kind of like not to do proactive press around this, but to kind of put a marker out there and help with search engine optimization and making sure that, you know, other entities view us as legitimate, and that helps to do that if you have the name out there in something like a press release online. And basically from that point forward, you know, we're going to be AVA. And like I said, between the 24th of October and the end of the year, we will be operating as AVA and just making sure that, you know, that we're ready to do the bigger launch in January. You can go on to the next slide. So I just have some assets to share in the next couple of slides to you know, show you. These are some of the things customers will have seen. As I mentioned, the power content label, the email version of it for those who have opted into electronic communications went out beginning on the 10th. Tranches of it go out every day beginning on the 10th. We know that at least member Bedoya saw it. He took a picture of it and I think tweeted it out to his constituents. So it's getting out there. The print run is happening right now, and the printed copies will be mailed out beginning on Monday. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. As I mentioned, PG&E bills will be updated beginning on the 24th. So as you know, bills are kind of issued on a rolling basis. So those customers whose October bills happen on the 24th or later will begin to see details of AVA community energy generation charges, not EBCE, but if you squint, you can see on the text we've taken as many efforts as we were able to in this crowded space to say that East Bay Community Energy is now AVA Community Energy and link those two things together. We did get kind of late breaking, not super news from PG&E that they were not going to make all of the updates on the bill as they had committed to beginning in October, because they are busy trying to sort out their net energy metering tariffs, how they're portraying that on bills. So what we have learned and what the agreement is now is that I don't know that you can see my cursor, but if you can't, everything on the bill will change as depicted here, except the narrative content that appears on the far right side of the bill. That will not be updated yet, and they haven't given us a date as to when it will be updated. But our customer service representatives have been informed about this. The municipal partners, they've been informed about this. So if people are really reading their bills closely and notice this discrepancy and they have questions about it, anybody that they reach out to is going to be prepared to talk about that. Go to the next slide, please. This is just kind of images of what you'll see on our website now. The yellow box is the message across the top of the homepage informing people that AVA is coming soon. And if you click on the blue box, blue button on that banner, you'll be taken to the secondary page that has some information about the rebrand and FAQ. So that's live now. You can go to the next slide. This another important stakeholder group, right, are employees. I won't dwell too much on this, but just to say, as tired as you guys might be about hearing about this, imagine how our employees feel. Like we are in their face all the time talking and about this rebrand and trying to give them the tools and information they need to embrace it and understand it and help anybody who comes to them about it. So there's been a lot of training and we're in the process now of distributing assets and things like that. So taking an inside out approach to this as well. You can go to the next slide. Our municipal, just one back real quick, and then we'll go on to that. Thank you. Nope, other way. Super. Thank you. So we partner closely with your staff and have been meeting with them regularly to kind of get their input on how we roll this out and get their suggestions for doing as much as we possibly can to, first of all, to make that lift as light as possible for them, and to give them all the materials they might need to help your constituents understand what's happening and become engaged with it when appropriate. So we have we've been meeting with them regularly on a monthly basis to kind of keep them informed and show them materials that we're building. We have created a toolkit that was distributed last week of all sorts of information and assets that they can use to roll it out and as I say, hopefully make their jobs a bit easier. And I'll show you a few of those things in the next couple of slides. On the 24th, when we do cut over, we've asked that, on that date or as soon as possible after that, any mention of EBC on your websites, your city websites, is updated to AVA, and we've provided some kind of recommended language around that and logo assets and things like that. And we have also, made sure that our customer support center is ready to handle any inquiries that come in from your constituents and, the specific questions that they might have about this. So they're all ready to do that. Post the 24th, after this is rolled out, we have implemented on our end some additional social media monitoring, where we'll be monitoring social handles associated with your cities as well. So looking for mentions of AVA along with your city. And if your constituents are posting about AVA, questions about it, whatever, we're monitoring that, and we'll be able to step in and respond and answer questions so that, if that does come up, it doesn't all fall to your staff to have to deal with that. So we can go to the next slide and just show you some of these assets that we did create. So as I said, there was a toolkit. These are just some of the select pages from it. So there's some suggested newsletter content that we wrote that they can just, kind of pick up and use as is or customize as needed and just put out in your city newsletters. We created some sample social posts that they can put out, over the next couple of months to assure people that, this change is legit and you're in on it. We drafted a letter to the councils that they can choose to submit or not. It's kind of formally introducing AVA to your legislative bodies. There's all sorts of assets in here that we hope will kind of help make this transition easier for your staff. And happy to share copies of that with you if interested. You can go to the next slide. This is just this is an image of what the social media monitoring that I mentioned that we're doing is. We can skip past that. And final stakeholder group I'll mention is just that our partners and legal counterparties. We're also working closely with all of them to make sure that we're compliant, for instance, with the, with CPUC and the state and all that stuff, and working with SMUD and our CSRs there and with PG&E to bring them all along, help them understand what's going on, help make sure that as we change things, we don't break anything with file transfers and things like that. And then, of course, our kind of more commercial partners, we're working with them to make sure that they have, the information they need to be representing us appropriately on their websites and in their communications, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of how we're treating each of these major stakeholder groups during this transition. And as I say, hopefully, spending the time now to make sure that everybody's brought along so that when we start advertising and communicating more aggressively in the new year, nobody's surprised and everybody's right there ready with us. So you can go to the final slide I've got, and that's just a look at what the phase 2 is. Like I said, we want to make sure we get everything ready right now, because this little chart is kind of a right now notional but representative depiction of the variety and intensity of kind of customer facing communications that we're going to be doing in the new year. So it's great to have the AVA brand in place for this, because I think, you can see with e-bikes and more induction stoves and DC fast charging coming and all these things like, that we're going to want to influence people on and adopt them. Having this, very consumer friendly brand to help us do that is great. And on the flip side, we have all these amazing programs coming for all of our constituents that just kind of gives proof to the promise that we are making about being able to help enable a brighter future for everyone. So these are all big efforts. E-bikes, induction stoves are, and I apologize, I have resilient communities on there. I mislabeled that. It should be healthy communities. That's our program, where we're seeking to upgrade 2,000 gas stoves for low-income residents over to induction, and carry out some air quality monitoring and longitudinal research on that front as well. So DC fast charging, obviously bringing on Stockton and Lathrop, all big, huge communication efforts, and we want to be thoughtful about doing them in a way that they all work together and they all reinforce one another, and they all help us reach our constituents and make sure that they're taking advantage of these benefits we can provide them. So I'm sure you'll hear more about each of those in this, the marketing and communications efforts around each of these things as they come closer in the new year. We look forward to talking about that. So that is what I had. Happy to answer any questions, or any follow-ups.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Do we have any questions about the presentation? Oh, I guess you're going to get off easy, Teresa. But
Okay,
thank you
I'll
for,
take it.
thank you for everything. It's been a long process. I was on the subcommittee, and it was a lot of ideas were going back and forth, a lot of prospective names, and it was very challenging for a while there, but now we're here. So thank you for everything. Thank you to all staff too.
Thank you. And thank you for hanging with us and providing all your guidance. We appreciate it. Thanks to all of you.
Okay, so with that, we will now go to the legislative update. Who will be presenting it there?
I'm here to present.
Yeah, Alec.
Right. So thank you all for having me here this afternoon. I'm Alec Ward, Principal Legislative Manager at EBCE. I lead our state legislative work and our federal affairs policy work. So for this presentation, I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough of the very active California legislative session we had this year. And I'm largely going to focus and start off on the bills that EBCE took positions on. So we can hop to the next slide. So you can see here the timeline for the legislative year. They usually look somewhat similar. Bills and introductions begin around January, and then it goes all the way through August or September. This year, the last day for voting was September 14th, and it's actually very timely having this presentation right now because the governor has until today, end of day, to sign or veto any bills. So overall, just how the year went, it was very busy but very productive. There were almost 2,000 bills introduced, which is near historic levels. We were also in a kind of a tricky spot with the budget deficit this year, but we were still able to end up protecting a lot of the energy funding, which was definitely a success. We were able to hold back some attacks on CCAs, and we also even managed to have a few wins, including some progress on things like interconnection. I'll talk about that and as we go through the individual bills on the next slide. So I think you can jump to that one, please. So I'll start off, I have them designated by issue area. So the first one certainly deserves its own spot. That's central procurement. This is AB 1373. It's from Assemblymember Garcia. It ended up being passed and signed recently, and EBCE began with oppose unless amend, but we ended up actually moving to neutral. And we moved to neutral because we were able to get some concessions after long negotiations with the governor's office. And to jog everyone's memory very quickly, I think in April or May, I came in front of the board and asked for recommended positions on 8 bills, which you all ended up supporting. So the first 8 bills we're going to walk through are ones that we had those positions on. So back to AB 1373. It was fortunately not crammed through the budget process. We were pushing back heavily on this. The governor had proposed this in his original budget back in January, and they attempted to put it through both budget bills in its original form, which we found very concerning. but thank you to the outreach from the board in particular. I'd surveyed you all on your connections with the legislature, and we were able to do some outreach and some advocacy that really helped shape this thing. So that's something we'd really look to do in the future as well. So yes, it was a long negotiation. This bill landed in 3 parts now. The first one is the creation of a central procurement entity. So this means that the Department of Water Resources, DWR, can now carry out procurement for a wide array of renewable energies. Any new really renewable tech with at least a 5-year lead time are the eligibility standards. The Public Utility Commission has a broad authority over what load serving entities like us, so the PUC, Public Utilities Commission, will look at what load serving entities like CCAs are procuring, and then they can go and order DWR to procure anything that they think is lacking. So it's broad authority there now with the PUC. So we're going to watch this implementation very closely because the CCAs, as you all know, as we all know, we're doing great procurement, and we don't want to have any sort of increased costs if there's a market distortion, if the state starts bidding into technologies that we're already attempting to procure. So that's something we're going to have to watch moving forward. So the second part of this bill is creating a new capacity payment for any load serving entities that miss hitting their resource adequacy standards. So throughout the year, we've voiced our concerns that the market for resource adequacy is very tight right now. Any additional penalties here could harm customers. So this is also an area that we're going to watch closely for implementation. The last one increases the Public Utilities Commission oversight over what technologies like the CCAs are procuring. So there will now, there's been some area of regulatory uncertainty. What's the exact authority through the Integrated Resource Planning, or the IRP of the PUC, but this confirms that they now have broader authority. So a bill that we ended up getting to a better place on, but still something that we're going to have to, again, be very cautious moving forward to ensure that rates aren't unnecessarily increased for our customers. So for the next bucket of issues here, energization, I had also presented to the board that we've surveyed all of our communities, and we've seen that there's a huge concern around largely PG&E being unable to connect projects to the grid, projects spanning affordable housing to community projects, fire, to police stations, to building decarb, EV charging stations. It's really across the board here. So this is an area of large focus for us. As we move forward this year, we had 2 successes here. We have AB 50 for Assemblymember Wood. We supported this bill. It was passed and signed, and it requires the PUC to create a shot clock for interconnection for the IOUs for any new and any upgraded load. And it'll also increase reporting, and it'll increase the transparency around this. So we're hoping that will clear up some of the murkiness and really bring this issue to light. A similar bill that runs parallel is SB 410. This was a Becker bill. It passed. We supported it. It will require the PUC to create also a shot clock for interconnection for new and upgraded load. It considers remedial actions for IOUs that are missing, increases reporting, and it also creates a new account to more quickly fund any labor needed from the IOUs to address these interconnection issues. The 2 bills did not make it in this issue area. You'll see in the status, they're called 2-year bills. That means that they might be introduced again next year. There's a potential for that, but they're currently held. So AB 643 is a Berman bill, and we were support, and it requires the PUC to create a shot clock for distributed energy resources, DERs. So think rooftop solar. And if they miss, then the PUC could consider penalties and ways to reduce administrative burden. And then SB 83 was Wiener. We were support. Requires the PUC to do another shot clock for new development and then issue penalties if it was missed. Again, that was a held bill there. Getting a little bit of disturbance. People wouldn't mind muting. Yep, thanks.
Recess.
There's a class going on here too.
Oh, gotcha.
We just locked the
Probably
door.
hard to mute the whole area over there. I can persevere. I think we can jump to the next slide.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Order.
All right, now the door is closed.
Thank you. All right, so the remaining three bills that we had positions on it was AB 557. This was a Brown Act bill by part. It would permit local agencies like EBCE to, it was passed and it was signed. We were supportive. It will allow groups like EBCE to indefinitely to continue the flexibilities we have during the COVID crisis, but it's only during declared states of emergency. So that won't be anything that allows flexibilities right now. We were a little disappointed this year. There were 9 bills that were attempting to address this issue. I'll actually talk about another one later, but they weren't successful with fully reaching the finish line. So I think this is something we might see next year. EVs, we have SB 529 by Gonzalez. It's a 2-year bill. We supported it. It requires the CEC to create a program to enable EV sharing services at low-income affordable housing properties. So we're hoping to see that next year. And also on building decarb, SB 527 MIN, we were supportive, but it was held. It establishes a neighborhood zonal decarb program where it could also authorize gas corporations to end their service to these neighborhoods if the PUC determines they'll actually be cheaper and better suited for electrification in those neighborhoods. So a type of pilot project there. We can jump to the next slide now. And this is a list of bills that we were watching closely but did not land on or have positions on, but still something that might come up next year, good to stay aware of. SB 149 Caballero, this streamlines the preparation of CEQA record and would expedite CEQA cases. This was passed, and this was a watch. So this would be for a wide range of renewable energy projects, including spanning like transmission to distribution. So this could be impactful. Climate bonds. Each of these bills are quite similar. Likely one will end up moving forward, but they both include $2 billion for clean energy. And slightly different what the buckets would be, but the similarities are transmission, distribution, EV charging, federal matching for all the great IRA and IIJA programs that we're seeing trickle down right now. So this could be very helpful. We think we'll see it early next year. So this is something I think you'll hear from us on coming up. Public funding for these will certainly be helpful. Regionalization, AB 538 Holden. This was a large bill authorizing the formation of a Western Regional Transmission Organization, RTO. As we had predicted, it was held this year. So I think that there'll be conversations next year around this one. Electric vehicles, SB 233. This is Senator Skinner. This was also held this year. And it had a couple of different iterations, but it ended up being a bill creating a working group to examine the challenges and the benefits of bidirectional charging and enabling CARB to require all new charging if they determine to be bidirectional. And then lastly, Brown Act bill. This was the other Brown Act bill as I was mentioning, SB 537 by Becker. This would permit local agencies like EBC to continue telework flexibilities outside of a state of emergency, but it would only give it to members that are located 40 miles away. So this would be helpful for further away EBCE jurisdictions. So this was also held. I think we might see something next year. So I think that might bring us to the end, if that's correct. Great. Hopefully that was enough bills for y'all to digest in a short time period, but I'll pause here for any questions or any thoughts.
Okay, thank you so much, Alec. Does anybody have any questions?
We have a member of the does anyone have a question here? But we have one member of the public with their hand raised.
Okay, let's go ahead and hear from them.
Yes, all right. Jessica Tovar, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
Hi, Alec, Jessica Tovar, East Bay Clean Power Alliance. I had a question about, and I don't know if this, maybe I missed it, but can you explain to us what a shot clock is?
Certainly, yes. If it's all right for me to respond, I can easily address that. So it's enabling the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission, to set a timeline, a suitable timeline, a maximum amount of time that a utility can interconnect. So It's basically saying they have, for example, like 80 days to interconnect this certain projects after application. So that's what we've colloquially been calling a shot clock.
All right, we have another member of the public with their hand raised.
Okay, go ahead.
Audrey Ichinose, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Oh, that was a great report. Alec, the bill tracker is a lot more specific than I remember it. So that's great. The question remains, could you still maybe walk us through the process by which you, your part of the legislative staff determines which bills are helpful or harmful to EBCE?
Yes, I'd be happy to respond to that. So we have a legislative platform that was created by our board, and it's updated annually. In fact, you can find it on our website, as well as a list of all the bills that we've taken positions on over the past, since existence. But we first analyze all the bills. We have a large internal tracker of all of them, and we kind of sort them internally as to what is best aligned with this legislative platform, what are the most significant bills, and then staff creates recommendations, which we then put in a presentation fairly similar to this around the beginning of the year during one or more board meetings, and then the board will have a memo, have all the bill information in front of them, and then come to a determination if they'd like to support that.
I do have one question. Yes, Member Roach has a question.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what does EBCE initiate any legislation? I mean, we're getting bigger and bigger. Is your staff busy doing that, getting sponsors for things you're interested in?
It's certainly an arrow in our quiver. It's always a difficult one to use and one that takes a lot of work. So we have a pretty high threshold as to what would drive it. We did try that last year with AB 1814. It was actually run by Cal CCA, our association, and it would have permitted CCAs to apply for IOU and be competitive for the PUC funding for transportation electrification programs. But it was ultimately unsuccessful. But it's certainly something we've tried before and something we remain into.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Alec. I had one question. We go back to the last slide that you showed. Yeah, SB 537 from Becker.
Yes.
I think I missed that one. Why did we do a watch on that instead of approve? I mean, in favor?
A support. That bill was changing relatively fast, went through multiple iterations, as was HART at the same time. When they first came out together and we were putting in bill recommendations, HART was actually broader and had more flexibilities even outside of state of emergency. So we chose to support that bill. But Becker was still a good bill too. We were worried that there'd be too many running at once and that they would overlap and some might cancel each other out. So we chose the one that we saw as most helpful. Yeah. But certainly, yeah, I think would be very comfortable putting up or recommending a support position next year for this bill if we see it again.
Now these bills, if they mention miles, like this one mentions miles, is it 40 straight miles or 40 driving miles?
Yeah, I think it's from what's the saying, how the crow flies. But yeah, I'd have to double check that. The mileage was actually a point of much negotiation, so it was changing around a bit.
Because 40 miles from Stockton to Calaveras County is a lot different than 40 miles from Oakland down to San Jose or that area. It's a way, anywhere in LA, 40 miles, that's 2-hour drive at least. So yeah. That's why I was asking. Yes. Okay.
That's a good question.
Okay, that's all I have. Any other comments or questions? Okay, next item. Thank you, Alec. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. That was a great report. Next item is the committee member and staff announcements, including requests to place items on future subcommittee agendas. Do we have any items?
Nothing for me.
Okay, so next item is we adjourn. 46 minutes.
We had one item for the staff announcements.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. I didn't see it.
Yeah, that's okay. Now everybody's ready to adjourn, so I better brief.
Sorry, Todd.
Hi all, I'm Todd Edminster. I'm the director of the policy group here. And I wanted to briefly flag for you consent item number 7. As long as we are gathered here, I wanted to get out in front of any questions folks might have about that, because it is a Department of Energy conflict of interest policy. And I am cognizant that earlier this year, we had adopted, the board had adopted a state mandated conflict of interest program as well. And I just wanted to spare any potential confusion by noting that the one is a state policy, the other is a federal policy, and they apply to different folks, overlapping but distinct. And the federal policy is also in some respects much broader as far as how deep it goes versus state policy. State policy only hits essentially top level management, whereas the federal policy is going to apply to folks up and down the organization who are involved in dealing with the DOE funding, the Department of Energy funding, that we are receiving thanks in part to Alec's good work for our resilience projects. So this is a complement to the state policy that was adopted earlier. It doesn't obviate the need for that. And it does apply to a different universe of folks, again, overlapping a little bit with the state policy, but also a broader universe of folks involving those who are working on these resilience projects. So just wanted to flag that for folks who might be wondering, why are we seeing another conflict of interest policy? It is different than the one that you have already approved in ways that I have outlined. And that's really all I wanted to bring across. So if folks have any questions about that, happy to answer, but hopefully that'll spare some confusion as you go through the packet.
Do we have any questions for Todd? Okay, thank you, Todd. And if there's nothing else, then we're going to adjourn. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.